Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. Midlife. You know, for a lot of us, it's when the battle with our bodies kicks into full gear. It's when losing weight and keeping it off gets harder and harder. And it's also when getting rid of that belly fat becomes less about vanity and how we look, but more and more about how we feel, especially for women facing menopause. Energy levels and self-confidence can begin to noticeably drop, and the impact can take a toll physically and emotionally. Unfortunately, it's a struggle that a lot of women deal with privately, but they certainly don't have to do it alone. Today, my guest is Shari Johnson. She is a certified women's wellness coach and founder of Happy Vibes Health, where she works exclusively with midlife women, helping them to naturally balance hormones and release stubborn midlife belly fat. Focusing on the whole person, mind, body, and spirit, Shari uses holistic methods partnered with positive mindset and lifestyle shifts to help her clients to lose weight, increase their energy, regain their confidence, and get comfortable in their skin again. She is passionate about women reclaiming their body's natural wisdom so they can age gracefully and powerfully. Shari, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you, and I'll be honest with you. I know you work exclusively with women in midlife, but from what I've seen following you and reading what you're putting out there and the videos you're doing, I think a lot of this can apply to men as well. So I'm secretly going to be leeching onto some of this information myself. And with that, I think the first thing that I would like to kick it off with is, why is it that we start gaining more weight in midlife?
Yeah. And, you're absolutely right. I really focus on working with women, but a lot of what we're going to be talking about today definitely also applies to men. So where I might need to put in an extra comment or qualifier for the men, I will do that. But basically, when we age and we start to put on that belly fat, especially, we tend to gain weight just in general, but it really starts to focus and get concentrated in the belly. It's really a kind of a whole compilation of things. It's about, what you're eating, how you're moving, how you're sleeping, how you're dealing with stress. And then ultimately, all of those things are going to actually have an effect on how balanced our hormones are. And really, once our hormones start to get imbalanced for both men and women, that's when all of a sudden the weight gain just starts to come on much quicker, when we might not be doing anything different than we were before. And so, that's where all of a sudden we feel like we wake up and we've got this spare tire and this gut that we never had before.
Well, it seems that every week something's changing about, no, the way you got to lose weight is you got to eat less and work out more. Then no, this week you don't eat fruit. That's horrible for you. And then the next week, and I always think about that because, when I've eaten and I eat bananas and people, no, don't eat that. That's going to kill you. The bananas, the fruit, is horrible. And I think it's got to be better than the Pop-Tart I was eating last week, right? So what is it that's making that difference? Because it seems like for a lot of people, in their teens and 20s, they could eat whatever they wanted and it just never seemed to affect them. Then slowly it starts adding up, but it really does seem like in midlife, it's just starts accumulating there, and you just look in the mirror and you notice it. And then the second part is it's a little harder to get rid of than it used to be. Well, what's changing in our bodies? You talk about hormones, but what is it that we can kind of use to make sense of this?
So one of the things that, starts to happen as we age is that our metabolism starts to slow down. Now, estrogen, which is actually a sex hormone that is present in both men and women, but estrogen will help regulate your metabolism. So as a woman's going through perimenopause and estrogen is starting to fluctuate and kind of going up and down that roller coaster, her metabolism gets a little bit messed up. And so it's much easier to start gaining weight when you weren't really gaining that weight before. Another thing that starts to happen is an event called estrogen dominance. So instead of estrogen being in balance with progesterone, with testosterone, it's really becoming the dominant hormone. And that actually is going to go ahead and promote insulin resistance. And insulin is another one of those hormones that kind of gets involved in this whole belly fat issue. And insulin, which is a hormone produced by the pancreas and is released in response to really, dealing with the blood sugar that we have going on and, kind of getting it into our cells for fuel, anything that's extra as far as blood sugar, the insulin, which is also known as a fat storing hormone, is going to go ahead and pack that away in fat. And one of its favorite places to pack it is in the belly. So that's what's kind of happening for both men and women. Additionally, for both men and women, as we age, just as a species, our testosterone just continues to decline. And so as that starts to happen, our lean muscle mass starts to also decrease with it. And that also will have an effect on how well we are actually burning our fat.
You mentioned something, and it's about not just being about how much you eat, but what you eat. And I know it seems like for years and years it was always, well, calories in, calories out. If you eat too much, exercise, burn those calories. But it seems like it's becoming more and more accepted by the mainstream that what you eat plays a significant role. So, what do you see as, what's most important, or is it both that's affecting our bodies in midlife? Is it how much we're eating? Because it seems like I'm eating less than I did when I was younger, but it's still, it doesn't seem to be affecting the weight. So, where's that balance is on how much you eat versus what you're actually eating?
Right. And, and it's interesting because it really used to be, sort of that tried and true saying, calories in, calories out, eat less, move more. And, to a point, that is absolutely true. But that also was, designed in a lab and basically created in this vacuum and not really taking into account, well, what are the quality of these calories that are going in? And so it's like 100 calories of a cookie is not going to be processed in your body the same way as 100 calories of a salad or even 100 calories of a protein. It's all going to be processed very differently. And if you're eating a lot more processed foods, a lot more sugars, that quickly gets absorbed into the bloodstream as glucose. And all of a sudden now, instead of having eating healthier choices where now you've got some fiber involved, you've got some, healthy fats involved, you've got some proteins involved, and it's actually helping to create, a feeling of fullness. And also it's slowing down that release of the glucose into the bloodstream. So you don't have that sudden rush of blood sugar when you're eating a healthier meal versus something that's a very high processed, like fast food, a lot of, the refined and processed carbs. And that's when, again, lots of insulin gets released into the blood, and whatever's left over, insulin's going to store as fat. And what starts to happen, this was also kind of, I feel like a little bit in that era of the calories in, calories out, was eating like, 6 mini meals a day and, snacking and sort of maintaining like a steady blood sugar level. But now what the research is coming out to discover is doing that, again, is just going to keep our insulin level elevated in our bloodstream, which is then going to also lead to insulin resistance, which then can take us down that path of, being pre-diabetic to diabetic. And just maintaining that continuous, blood sugar level, again, leads us to being, able to gain weight and fat much easier, much quicker. And this is kind of where there's been a lot of buzz going around with the intermittent fasting, which for a lot of people, intermittent fasting, they're finding works incredibly well when it comes time to, lose weight in midlife, and especially even around that belly area.
Well, yeah, that's something I definitely want to get into, because I think that's kind of the what would you call it? The 3 points I'm seeing in there. When you talk about how much you eat, what you eat, and then the when you eat, the importance, and a lot of things that a lot of us never even considered. And going back to that, what you eat, it sounds like when you do choose those types of foods that you're talking about over the processed foods, that it's almost can be self-regulating. That by eating those foods, kind of naturally helps you to not overeat, versus I can't help it. My anxiety is growing as we speak about the Girl Scout cookies I have on my table downstairs. But it sounds like, because with the Girl Scout cookies, the meal's not over till the milk's gone, in my mind. But it sounds like it does seem like when you're eating those processed food, that it's more of, you got to make a decision when to stop rather than feeling full. But the foods that you're talking about, when you're talking about like the avocados and the natural things, those seem to kind of let you know that you're full. Am I imagining that, or is
no,
that?
No, not at all. And the interesting thing about sugar, and when I say sugar, I'm going to lump that in with a lot of those refined and processed carbs, because ultimately that's how the body is going to see it and process it. But sugar actually will light up the same exact area of our brain as heroin. So what starts to happen? It's very pleasure driven, right? It does give us pleasure to eat those types of food. And then the other thing, though, is when you are eating a lot of this processed foods, they're really so nutritionally deficient that what starts to happen is your body's not being properly nourished. So it's actually thinking to itself, okay, I didn't get all the vitamins and the minerals and everything I need to function properly. So I need to go eat more so that I can try to get what I need to live and survive. And so that's what starts to happen. So then you start to go and you eat more. So now it almost becomes this like vicious cycle of, you're eating the sugar. It's giving you great pleasure. It's not nourishing you. So your body wants more food.
My God, I mean, it really has come down to the calories are not created equal, I guess, when it comes down to what you're eating, and just like you said, how they affect you and how you feel. The same, 500 calories can make you feel very differently. And one of the things I want to bring up is you recently released this incredibly informative video about inflammation and the impact that it can have on different areas of health. Would you mind sharing how that fits into this, and how the two different foods of the same maybe caloric value can make you feel very differently?
Yeah. So inflammation is one of those things that sometimes it can be a very good thing for our body. And then other times it's really can be quite destructive. And so when it's a good thing is when it's acute inflammation. So this is, you cut your finger, you can see the redness where the cut is, and your body starts to, basically take action to heal and make sure that, potentially maybe like, infection doesn't set in, things like that. And so once that wound is healed, the inflammation goes away and your body kind of goes back to doing what it was doing before. Now, chronic inflammation is when the body itself is in an inflammatory state, but there's really no type of danger or viral invasion. It's just in this chronic state of inflammation. And a lot of that, again, it can be caused by several things. It can be caused by like an autoimmune disease. It can be caused by, toxins that we're exposed to, but it can also be caused, again, by the foods we eat. Sugar is a big culprit for inflammation. Another one, especially for me personally, dairy is very inflammatory. And so that, and then couple that with stress, that also will create an inflammatory state. And so when we're in this inflammatory state, again, it can start to set us up for potential disease, such as, heart disease, different types of cancer, high blood pressure. And so, getting that inflammation down and under control is key. And again, we can do a lot of this ourselves just by what we're eating, how we're moving, how we're sleeping, and how we deal with stress.
Well, yeah, and that's the really incredible thing is how much of that is affected, far more by what you're eating versus the actual caloric content. And you mentioned sleep, and I know from listening to some of the things that you're putting out there, sleep, it can be kind of a vicious cycle. The sleep can have such a big impact on our weight and our health, but at the same time, what we're eating can have an impact on our sleep. Can you kind of expand on that cycle and how you can break out of that?
Yeah. So I will confess that I'm a total sleep geek. So I'm going to give you one of the facts that I think is just so interesting. You actually can live longer without food than you can live without sleep. I think that right there sums up just how important sleep really is to not just our own survival, but also our health. But now, sleep is one of those things. Again, we're talking about dealing with our hormones and our metabolism, and really just how well our body is functioning. So just a little bit about sleep and how it affects what we're eating and how we're eating. When we sleep, this gives our body really like a chance to reset. And what, it's resetting long-term memory, short-term memory. It's also, processing things, but it's also working on balancing hormones. And two of the hormones that it works on is leptin and ghrelin. Those are the hormones that are going to tell us when we're full and when we're hungry. So leptin is the hormone that lets you know, like, okay, I've had enough to eat. You can stop now. Ghrelin, I always think, kind of sounds like it's grr, like, your stomach's growling. That's how I keep them straight myself. But that is when you feel hunger actually in your stomach. And if you're not getting the proper amount of sleep and quality of sleep, your leptin levels will actually decrease while your ghrelin levels will increase. So you're actually going to feel hungry more often and not fill up as quickly as you normally would. And then additionally, if you're not getting your sleep, it messes up with your cortisol, and it kind of pushes your cortisol higher than it should be. And that messes up with your thyroid hormones, which again are connected to your metabolism.
So how much of that does that what you're eating trigger these things to feel? Because is that why when you're eating a lot of those those processed foods that full feeling seems to take a lot longer to hit you?
It's one reason, but it's that idea that sugar gets processed into your bloodstream so very quickly. And it's just, it's not going to keep you full for very long. But as far as like with, also food and sleep, like eating a large meal too close to bedtime will definitely like kind of mess up like your heart rate and your body temperature and your sleep quality. So you want to always make sure, you give yourself a couple of hours between dinner and then when you're actually going to go to sleep. And then there's obviously other things that can mess up your sleep. Caffeine, try to stay away from caffeine after, 2:00 in the afternoon. Everyone has their own sensitivity to caffeine. So for some people, you might have to stop a little earlier in the day. And then also it's the idea too, alcohol. Alcohol really can mess up sleep. And additionally, alcohol, which breaks my heart because I'm actually, I have an advanced degree in wine, but I can't really drink it anymore because, it messes up with your sleep and it will definitely contribute to the belly fat.
Wow. Well, that's bringing me down.
I know. I'm sorry.
I was hoping you'd say, well, but the good news is graham crackers are good for you, but
I know, I'm a buzzkill.
but actually not, because I think that's where, if this was all just about losing the weight for the vanity purposes that we talked about, it would be one thing. But I think the trade-off that people experience in how they feel can make it a no-brainer to make that trade-off. What would you say? Do you see how adjusting, the what you eat and how you eat is enough to change those the chemistry that's going on inside you and have a much more positive impact on how you feel?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because there are definitely so many things within our own control that we can do that can help our body heal and balance our own hormones. And again, it's a lot of it is about relearning the skill of listening to your body and understanding what your body needs and when it needs it versus just grabbing something because it's convenient and it just happens to be lunchtime. But as far as, trying to balance our hormones, one of the things that I find can really benefit everyone, and a lot of my clients find that they just simply aren't eating enough protein. And the great thing about protein is it has, especially and when I say protein, I'm talking like the good, healthy, organic, pesticide free, antibody free, all of the good stuff. But it has a little bit of cholesterol, and cholesterol is not always a bad thing because cholesterol is what really is going to help us build our hormones. So if we're not getting enough protein, we really aren't even giving our bodies the building blocks that it needs to create those hormones. And then, there's other food choices, and especially for women, there's a lot of, phytoestrogens that they can eat to kind of boost up their estrogen production. There's, certain things that you can do to help your progesterone production. And really the key is keeping all of these in balance. It's really just a balancing act. And once you can do that, then it's never about let's get, back into a size 2 jean. It's really about being comfortable in your skin again, having all of that energy and just feeling good. You just don't want to, wake up and feel like you're just slugging through to the day just so that you can get, to your bed at night and, hopefully get a few hours of sleep just to do it all over again.
Well, I think definitely as we get older, and especially in the middle age, feeling good, boy, just far more the goal than the beach body. And I think, if we wake up to and feel good, that's half the battle of winning the day, I think. You said something that I think is changing the landscape of how we think about food now. And that's what, you mentioned about, grab something to eat because it's lunchtime. I think the whole concept of breakfast time, lunchtime, dinner time has been just obliterated with the concept that you had mentioned earlier about intermittent fasting. And I know that's a word that, we're hearing a lot, but I think a lot of people aren't quite understanding that. And one, the word fasting, I think, strikes fear in a lot of people's hearts. It certainly does mine. So can you talk about that and the concept and how that's benefiting people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, intermittent fasting and fasting in general, like you said, is really becoming sort of this kind of, I don't even want to call it a diet du jour because you're not really eating. But it's one of those, there is a lot of science that actually is behind the idea of intermittent fasting. I think one of the things that begins to become very confusing about intermittent fasting is there are so many different ways to approach intermittent fasting. So, for example, my favorite method that I like to have everyone try out if they're curious about intermittent fasting, it's the 16-8. So you're not going to eat for 16 hours, and then you have an eating window of 8 hours. So, for example, if you have your dinner at, let's see, 6:00 at night, then don't have anything to eat again until 10 o'clock in the morning. So actually, when you look at it that way, it doesn't seem so horrible. But also it's the idea that 8-hour eating window, that's not like a free for all. Like I have 8 hours to eat whatever I want, however much I can, because when the clock strikes 6, I'm sort of, out of the kitchen. It's really, again, about you need to eat these good, healthy foods that really are going to support your body so that it can support you. And there are several other different ways you can intermittent fast. A lot of women do like this, where they eat normally for 5 days, and then for like 2 days, they do a severe calorie restriction of maybe only about 600 calories a day. And that works really well for some people. You can also do, alternative fasting days. So you're 24 hours on with eating, a normal schedule, 24 hours where you're completely fasting. And it's the idea that the science behind fasting, and which is, a much longer period of time. Some people can fast, anywhere from 5 days to a few weeks. But it's the idea that, again, going back to what your blood sugar level is and the release of insulin. And once there's no longer any blood sugar available to your body, that's when it needs to think, okay, that source is all used up. Now we need to go to our next source of food, which is usually glycogen that's located in the liver, pulls it all out of there. And then after that's used up, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have all these fat cells with all this like extra food. It's like having an extra pantry in your kitchen. And now the body's going to start using up that food source. And they've actually, the science is there where, it's not something where you're not going to get unhealthy because you're doing this. but it's also key that you set yourself up properly in advance, that you just don't go from a really horrible, standard American diet into the next day that you're going to be fasting. I like to see people clean up their diet first before they even jump into the intermittent fasting.
Well, like I said, fasting, I think, strikes fear in a lot of people. But what you just said and the way you described that, it actually creates hope, for I would imagine a lot of people, myself, it certainly does, because when you're talking about that 16-8, I believe is what you call it.
Yeah.
Because I've never been a breakfast person, but for years I've been been told, no, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So I for years I would choke down a breakfast that I didn't want, and it sounds like that would be a perfect opportunity to move that. Is there any particular frame of when that 8 hour is? Is it wise to skip breakfast? Or
so I'm kind of with you. I used to always eat breakfast because I was told it's the most important meal of the day. And turns out when I started to listen to my body a little more, I'm not a big breakfast person either. So for some people, it's everyone is a bio individual. So what works great for you and me might not work so great for somebody else. So that's the beauty of this, right? We get the chance to choose when we would like to fast, when it works best into our schedule, into how our body, actually works. And the beauty also about fasting, even though it might strike the fear, into a lot of people, you're not in a starvation situation. Food is available to you. If you reach a point where you're like, I'm so hungry, I think I could eat my arm. You know what? Then go have like a nice healthy snack with maybe some protein, healthy fat, and a little bit of carb. And that's okay too. So that's the beauty of fasting, is that if you really get hungry, it's okay. You can eat.
But when we're talking about fasting, that 60-day, is it's a completely different change and shift in what I think people think of fasting. Because when I think of fasting, I'm thinking of days without food. But you're talking about just, push off that meal, 8 hours, window that you talked about of eating, I think is probably one of the more doable, diet, if you can even call that, strategies that I've heard of in a long time. Do you find that that's something that is easier for people who may have struggled with the diets or weight loss systems in the past to follow, to adapt to?
Absolutely. And, I do have like some clients where, they're really not interested in intermittent fasting, and that's perfectly fine. I have most of my clients love the 16-8. And then I have like, one or two who like to do the, 5 days normal eating, and then the, severe calorie restriction for 2 days. So that's the beauty of it. You get to choose what works for you, what feels best in your body.
Well, this is I want to go back to you're talking about those the hormones, and especially I think this applies to women, especially because a lot of times when you hear about midlife and you hear about the menopause and the perimenopause, that hormonal fluctuations seem to always be a part of the conversation, and you hear about hormone replacement therapies, and it seems to be the center of a lot of what's causing these problems. So I think only you can answer this, because I don't know, but what are those those fluctuations? How do they affect a woman's quality of life? And by changing this how, when, and what you're eating, how does that impact those hormonal fluctuations?
Now the crazy thing is, unfortunately, is every woman's experience with perimenopause and menopause is different and unique. And what one woman might be going through, her sister, her best friend, her mother may not have the same exact experience at all. Chances are they probably won't. But just, a little bit of what's happening is, the three sex hormones that we're looking at are estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. I always like to say estrogen is sort of like Diana Ross, and the progesterone and testosterone are like the backup singers. They're the streams. And so estrogen, she's kind of the diva, and she's sort of running the show. And it's fascinating because for women, estrogen has over 400 different functions in the body. So when estrogen starts to fluctuate, it really can affect so many things. It's kind of what drives, if women are going to have hot flashes or not. It's kind of the driver of, again, slowing down our metabolism, creating, more weight gain. It can also start to mess up our sleep a little bit more. It just, usually if something crazy in your body is going on and you're not sure why, chances are it's because your estrogen is either in a dominant state or it's going really low. The other two hormones, progesterone is a calming hormone. It helps with sleep. It helps kind of keep your mood sort of steady. And again, once that starts to decline, it again messes up with our sleep, kind of messes up with our mood, messes up with the menstrual cycles. And then testosterone, again, we're talking our lean, body mass and our libido. So it's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of different things can happen. But it is one of those things that, I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't really speak to like the prescription hormones, because that is not, my scope of practice. But so much of what I touched on in the beginning really has an influence on, and this is, again, goes not just for women, but for the balance of men's hormones. It really is about what you're eating and how you're moving, how well you're sleeping. And then a lot of it is stress driven too. So if we can take a look, and it's one of those where it's a lot to look at one time. So it's best to kind of like, let's just take a look at, I always like to start with the diet first, and then, start working, outward from there, and kind of bringing it all together so that women will start to feel the difference. I know I had a client recently, and she thought she had a really healthy diet. And I'm like, what is going on? Because she's eating healthy. And finally, when I was like, I need to see a food diary, I was like, well, you're not getting enough protein. And once she started to eat more protein, she's like, oh my gosh, it's like, I feel like myself again. She was like, I can't believe that this is all it took to feel this good again.
Well, I think it really just speaks, volumes to the fact that, getting that middle age because of these hormonal changes, and in both men and women, we start to feel the effects of that extra weight. Mm-hmm. And it's just a back and forth battle that, what's, is the weight causing us to feel the way we feel, or is it, how we're feeling because of what we're eating causing the extra weight? And I think that's why, having someone like you that's just so good at explaining this and putting it into plain terms so that people understand. And also the fact that the flexibility that you have in your guidance, because I don't know if you've noticed or not, but a lot of people that are promoting weight loss have a way, and their way seems to be the only way. But just the fact that you understand that different people respond differently to different things, I think really is something that a lot of people can attribute their success to with with what you're providing with this guidance. I'd like to talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, how the people that work with you, how can people work with you? Is it something that is done virtually or one-on-one or in groups? If you can kind of give us a little insight into what that looks like. I think that would go a long way in helping people understand just how doable this is.
Yeah. So, right now I limit my practice to just one-on-one, and it's done via Zoom. So I'm available globally. And it's really, again, I work with midlife women. They are my passion. So starting out, it's really, again, it's this holistic approach. I like to look at it as like a 3-prong approach. It's at mind, body, spirit. I want to get all of that in balance. I want to get all of that optimized, because ultimately, this is going back to what we were saying before. You have all of that in balance, you're feeling pretty amazing. So we work, I want to kind of dig deep and start to work on that, and really, have the woman start to, again, learn to listen to her body, understand what works best for her, understand what needs she might have. And it's a little bit of detective work, right? We have to, try something, maybe that doesn't work. You try something else, and it's something that gets pieced together. And I have a 90-day program, and by the end of those 90 days, my clients are feeling so much better. And not only are they feeling better, they have that confidence that they have more control now on their health journey than just kind of going, well, I don't know, I guess I just need to go get a prescription drug because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, that just seems to be a lot of the culture, is there's a pill for that, and they mask symptoms, one or the other. But it sounds like with your approach, each one of those, the prongs of that 3-prong approach support the others.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times a pill takes care of one, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the remarkable things is the fact that while you're focusing on feeling better, one of the magical side effects is with the fat, losing, even though, vanity is a big a part of it, that seems to be one of the magical side effects of all this. So I guess now we talk about the really important stuff. What have you seen as far as people, the weight loss and how they view themselves, and that, besides just the energy levels, but the self-confidence that comes along with that? It's got to be tremendously rewarding for you to be a part of that.
No, absolutely. And, like I said, I think it's seeing that confidence grow, that this is, when I see a woman just think, wait a minute, I actually have choices, and I can control my health destiny, and how, well I'm going to be aging, and how I can show up in my life and in my relationships and in my career. And that's really my passion.
Well, I was going to ask you if you wouldn't mind, sharing some of that as far as your personal background. What is it that led you to do what you do and to help the people you help? What is it that fuels that passion?
Yeah. So it's one of those, it has not been a straight journey. There have been a lot of curves and a few U-turns in my life and in my career. But ultimately, I've always been fascinated by health. And for the longest time, it was really just, I focused on myself. And, there were definitely a couple of, personal things that, happened to me. My dad died very young at 62 when I was, I think, in my early 20s. And that was one of those things that he died of a heart attack, and I know it was preventable. And then later, my mom developed breast cancer, and she was one of those women who unfortunately said, can't they just give me a pill? And it just broke my heart because I knew, again, there was so much she could do for herself. And I don't know if it was that she just didn't know or she didn't care to know. And so for me, I started to see that there needed to be something bigger. And I know for myself, I'm 58. When I went through menopause, it was a very lonely transition for me. I didn't know really who to talk to. I didn't quite understand not what was going on, but more of what potentially could happen, because I only knew myself as who I was, and I didn't know this person I was becoming. And it was very frightening. And I didn't know how that was going to affect me, and how I was seen by myself and by my husband and by society. I didn't know if I was still going to be seen as feminine. I didn't know if I was still going to be seen as sexually attractive. I didn't know if I was going to be seen as a viable part of the global community. And as I kind of went on this journey, somewhere along the line, I realized I can be a health coach. And I was just like, it was like, the clouds parted and the sun came out, and I was like, this is what I need to share with the world, because I don't want anyone else to have, similar stories or similar experience like I had. I don't ever want a woman to walk into a doctor's office and have them say, if you only started sooner, or if you only did this sooner, when I know she could have so much more power and control in how her body ages. So that is really like I said, my passion and what drives me every day.
Well, I can say that, there's certainly nothing more powerful than having a coach, a guide, someone that's been where you are, has been to the other side and been to that journey and has brought back a map. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's just so generous to be able to bring back that map and to share that with others. And you do it in such a remarkable way. And I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing that, so selflessly. Did I say that right? It's not just about, hey, losing a couple of pounds around, the waist. It's about changing your life, changing the way you feel, changing the way that, the energy and makes it possible to do so many more things for so much longer than people allow themselves. So it really is, remarkable what you're doing. And so again, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing that.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I have to ask, how can people find out more about Shari Johnson and Happy Vibes Health?
Yeah, so I would say the two best ways to do it, if you are interested in going ahead and just booking a free consultation call with me, I would go to my website, and there's a sign up right there. And the website is happyvibeshealth.com. But what I think is even more fun and more fabulous is I just recently started a Facebook group. And also, if you search in the Facebook groups up for Happy Vibes Health, it'll pop up. And it's filled with just amazing, remarkable, supportive women. I kind of treat the group like a party, and I'm the hostess, but I want it to be an education-filled party. I'm going to be launching my Happy Vibes Happy Hour in the group this week. And then I'm going to start doing complimentary monthly coaching. So especially for people who aren't quite clear on, what health coaching might be, what it would mean, in their lives, and just to kind of see it in practice, that is a fantastic way to do it. And yeah, the group is, I just I think it's going to be fabulous, and it's free. And I think it's just a great way to continue your education on what's happening with hormones and belly fat, and again, what you can potentially do. And like I said, there's some pretty amazing women in there. So make some good friends too.
Well, again, I mean, that's just the beauty of what you do. You're making this fun, and you are a true, educator and advocate for the success for women that, are going through this journey oftentimes alone, and you're given that opportunity so that they don't have to do this very personal journey alone. So just wonderful. So Shari, again, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a real pleasure for me to learn from you. And even though you do work exclusively with the women, women, don't hesitate to let some of this stuff bleed over into your husband's ears. They may just take you up on it. So again, Shari, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, there you have it. Definitely check out Shari Johnson, happyvibeshealth.com. Also, the Facebook group, and we'll have links to those right there on the show post. Until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today.